Michael's exposure to a life of partying and drinking started at an early age.
The earliest one that I can recall was at a home party of our parents, and we were having drinks, they were having drinks, and so we got some of the drinks, stole some of the drinks, went behind the shed, and we started drinking. And this was hard liquor.
Growing up with an absentee father in a dire situation at home, he resorts to leave.
I decide, because of what I'm seeing at home, I'm not liking it, and I'm not happy about it. And there's a lot of conflict, and there's a lot of between myself and my father when he's around. And then my mom also is not happy the way I'm turning out.
As he decides to settle down and have a wife, the marriage becomes abusive.
He abused me mentally, verbally, physically. And all this time I think he was physically abusing me. It wasn't one week. Yeah? He'd come drunk, and me, I have my opportunity.
After a short drive from Nairobi, our journey ends in the bustling estate of Buruburu. It is here that we meet Michael as he reflects on a childhood that exposed him to a life that would lead to a gripping alcohol addiction.
We were not raised up in a Christian family, as it were. My dad and my mom, at their early lives, I can't remember ever going to church those days. But as we grew, we were raised up in Ngara and Kibera initially, and I remember the early days of our life. There was a lot of issues in the family because my dad, who was a pilot, and my mom, who was a teacher, were going through a lot. Dad was very absent. Since being a pilot, half of the time he was out of the country. He was so soaked up in his own studies as a pilot, and so that really took a lot of time and strain on him. So as we were growing up, we were left with our mother, and it was our mom who really raised us up, formed us up, and Dad was there to provide for the family. As I grew up, being exposed to what I saw from my father initially, I thought maybe this is, just how life is, and this is the way life is supposed to be. And so for me, I started imitating that. I was introduced to alcohol at an early age, and I remember the earliest one that I can recall was at a home party of our parents, and we were having drinks, they were having drinks, and so we got some of the drinks, stole some of the drinks, went behind the shed, and we started drinking. And this was hard liquor. At the same time, liquor came with cigarettes. There were cigarettes all over the house and the home at that time. And so we also started smoking.
After going into one of the critical initiation processes, Michael decided to take charge of his life.
I decided, because of what I'm seeing at home, I'm not liking it, and I'm not happy about it. And there's a lot of conflict, and there's a lot of between myself and my father when he's around. And then my mom also is not happy the way I'm turning out. She's looking at me and saying, you're going to turn up like your father. If you're not careful, you better turn away from all these things. But now I think I'm old enough to make the decisions. Don't forget, I'm the firstborn. Don't forget, now my dad is not present. So I'm feeling like now, actually, I'm the one in charge of this home. You should not even be sharing anything with me. And so now I decide to move out at that early age, because I'm looking for freedom. I'm looking for a place where I can do whatever I want without being accountable.
As he gets close to finishing his high school education, the addiction to alcohol is getting worse.
By the time I'm reaching the age of 15 and 16, I'm clearing now my fourth form. I am now in, nobody's telling me anything. I'm thinking I have the full control of my life, but alcohol had really controlled and taken over everything that I was doing. And so at that point, at that moment, I started trying to stop it within myself, my efforts, but I couldn't get any help. I couldn't help myself, and I wouldn't even allow anybody else to come near to try and help me. That's when now I met my wife-to-be, my girlfriend at that time. I think I was just doing my 4th form.
I was in Form 3. I believe I was 17 years old. We were living in the same estate, so that's how I got to notice him. Their house was before you get to the corner shop. So as I'd go to the corner shop for breakfast, to buy milk and bread, I'll pass outside their house. And of course I'd see him. And I liked what I saw. And I was drawn to what I saw.
It would not take long until Anne was introduced to Michael's way of life.
I find this beautiful, pure, innocent girl. And I tried to keep her away as much as I would from my lifestyle. Because don't forget, I had moved out from home. We had met in Buruburu, and so I would want, if we are meeting within that setup, where it's safe, where it's she's not exposed to what I'm going through. But with time, she couldn't also keep herself away.
I didn't know how he was living his life. And even though I came to know a bit later, it wasn't a shock or a surprise, because even in my own home, we were going through the same thing. We were brought up the same way they were, having drinks, having parties, having celebrations. So his story was like mine. Although I was not given to drinking, it was in our home. Yes. Occasionally, because we'd be left sometimes unsupervised, we'd have a sip or two, but I didn't have a struggle or a challenge.
She realized that half of the time I'm not at home, so she would come and look for me where I was, and most of the time it would be in clubs, it would be in pubs, it would be in discotheques, it would be in places that were quite shady.
Despite Michael's mother trying to intervene, the addiction had taken a hold of Michael, and it felt like there was no turning back.
This time, Mom, because of her own issues with my father, she has become a churchgoer. She has settled down in a very beautiful church, a Seventh-day at that time, and she's now conformed and transformed completely. And now she's the one now trying to tell me, you know, you need to change your life, you need to turn away, and we can offer you help. And so she starts inviting me to her church. Of course, I attend a few sessions in church, I go for a few, you know, Sabbath classes, but all this just to try and show her that I'm okay. But all I knew inside me, nothing was really going to change. We were too deep in this. It was controlling my life. So eventually, we decided, my wife and I, that we are going to start a family.
While he was in college, I was working, and I'd go visit him. I was still at my parents' home, and I had money. I had more than I needed. And here is a young man who's gotten my heart. Why not share? I didn't mind. I didn't foresee it as an issue, because I wasn't committed into anything. I mean, I didn't have a budget. And we'd go out. We'd go out. This day they'll call it Dunda, but then it was disco.
Michael would later get a job, and the decision to settle down and start a family came with a lot of soul searching.
Now we have these two combined, what I would call maybe revenues. And we have no foundation in anything at all, apart from our lifestyle of drinking and partying. And so that's what now we do in another level. We take it to the next level for about 3 to 4 years, doing that, until now we start seeing there has to be a transformation, there has to be a change, there has to be a way out. And I start crying out to God, inwardly, alone. And I'm not sharing this with anybody, but I could tell that God was really pursuing me, and he's saying, you will die. This thing will kill you. There's no way you're going to survive this. And when I looked at my father, I realized that also he was also going through his stuff. He had lost his job at that time. He's now also going through depression. He's getting ill, he's sick. So I look at this, and every time I'm being shown the same thing. This is where you're ending up. And then I'm reminded of my name, which is Monyo, my second name. My name is Michael Monyo. And I was being told by many of the family members and many other friends of mine that that's it. As Monyo, you're a drunkard. This is your course, this is your way, and you will end up dying also.
As the reality dawned on Michael, Anne was coming to terms with a husband that became abusive.
I realized it was getting out of control. Now when we started living together as man and wife. Before, I wouldn't know it that much because we'd see each other, he'd go to his place, I'd go to my parents' place. So at times we wouldn't be together, so I wouldn't know what he was doing. But now I'm living with him. He's coming back to my house. He's coming back to our children. And I could see now this. It's not what I signed for. He was not only drinking, he was getting even physical. Not once, not twice. So I thought this now it's a problem. He abused me mentally, verbally, physically, and also psychologically. Sometimes it made me feel it was all my fault. I'm not good enough. I'm not doing this well. I'm falling short in this area, and maybe that's why he's going out. To a point, I lost confidence in myself. Yeah, I became intimidated, I became quiet, I became reserved. And of course, I didn't want to speak out. I didn't want people to know what I was going through. It was a shame. Yeah. On the outside, I'd appear happy, appear like I have it all under control. But at home, I live in fear.
Michael recalls a rather chilling night when they got attacked, and despite the extent of the attack, it still wasn't enough to change his ways.
I decided I wanted to go home in the wee hours of 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning. And as I was crossing from Buruburu, because at that time I used to live in Umoja, through Mutindwa, there was no road. It was just an alley, and it was on a rainy day. I remember very vividly that as I was walking to cross over the railway line to get to Umoja, we were attacked. We were walking and somebody just ambushed us. As I fell down, I realized that I had no strength even to try and fight back or protect myself. These thugs, they bet us, and I think I remember the following morning, I had been left on the railway line, stripped off everything that I had apart from my boxer, and had been rained on, had blacked out, and I don't even recall until the time that I was being taken home by a Good Samaritan. That's what I would say, because by the time I was getting home, I was not even sober enough to know who I was or where I was at. How they got my address, how they knew where I was, that's another story. I don't even understand myself. But they took me home, and my wife, I think, is the one who opened the door, and you can imagine the shock.
It had gotten to a point now it was like a way of life for us. At night I wouldn't know where he was, how he'll come back, and in what condition he'll come back in. So whenever he knocked, he came back, the first thing for me was relief that he's still alive. The rest we'll handle it later.
Getting children would come with challenges as Michael lives out some of his biggest fears.
My wife was very busy where she was working, and for me, I became the absent father, just like my father. I remember I would go to work at 6 in the morning, and I would come at midnight. We would have breaks in between. for lunch between 2:30, because it's a hotel. We would have breaks between 2:30 all the way to around 6 or 7, but I would not bother going home. I would just look for a place, a pub or a club, and just go and, that was my life. And this went on. So even when our baby is being born, our firstborn baby, I'm not spending time with the family. I'm not there. I'm very absent. Then we have our second-born son now, Ian, who is born deaf at that time, and I'm not even aware of it because I'm in and out of my, sicknesses and diseases of alcoholism, because that is what I would describe them as. And as we try to do marriage with my wife, we sit down, and I see that she's really frustrated, and she's young, she doesn't know how to cope with it. I'm also young. So my mom comes in and says, I'm going to take these children. And she actually takes our firstborn daughter and goes to live with her. And says, I won't be able to let her back to your place until you guys sit down and just change your lifestyle completely. Otherwise, then they will also be exposed to this kind of lifestyle.
We are living in a lost and broken world, constantly bombarded by messages of hate and atrocities. But with God, we can overcome. Find hope and restoration on the go through life-changing shows on the Family Media app.
And then you will lose yourself and gain the world. And Jesus said, what good is it?
Get to stream Family TV and Family Radio 316 straight from your phone. Catch up on a show you missed or create video streaming playlists by saving and watching videos from our huge variety of shows at your own convenience. Download the Family Media app, available for all Android and iOS users on the Google Play Store and Apple Store respectively. Family Media, keeping Jesus on the airwaves.
With the idea that maybe a change of environment would help Michael transform, he gets the opportunity to go to the UK for work.
This was a new exposure to everything that I had here, now to a bigger way. And my lifestyle never got better. It got worse. My mother would even travel from Kenya to come and get me out of the UK and bring me back here, which didn't happen because I was also not ready. I knew that my life was over.
The plans for him to go to UK, to me, at that time, they appeared like good plans, because we are at a place financially where we thought if he left the country, we'll have a better life. Of course, he'd go and earn, and then we'll be able to progress and build ourselves financially. But that was not the case. Being left, apart from now that loneliness, for me it was like a break from him. I wouldn't say I minded it so much, because basically I used to do everything myself. I used to take care of the children, my own. Now he's not there. I'm just doing what I've been doing all along.
In fact, I remember in the UK, there was so many times that it was almost suicidal. I believe whatever I was doing to commit suicide, to try and take my life. It's only that it never happened.
Michael and Anne's only son, Ian, was born deaf, but they would not come to terms until much later.
For Ian, I noticed he delayed in speech. So I took him to the doctors because I didn't know what to make of it. So they did this test and it was confirmed that he's deaf, profound deaf. And to me it came as a shock. Because I have a sister whose son started talking at 3.5. So I thought, just a matter of time, because he used to be so energetic. He used to be very active. I just thought maybe he needs to slow down to be able to respond to my communication. Maybe when he does so, we'll have a conversation. But that was not how it turned out to be. The test confirmed that he was profound deaf.
When I heard the news that he was deaf, I didn't even believe it. I remember asking my wife to make sure, just go to all the hospitals, make sure you're getting other opinions, because that's not even possible. Probably delayed speech or something. He had been born underweight. And for me, I didn't really think that that would really cause or affect anything. And so it took me a long time. In fact, it was until I returned to Kenya that I confirmed actually his death. I never believed it.
After Michael's return to Kenya and not changing his ways, his wife was seeking a separation that would see her live with the children.
I'm really actually thinking maybe it's a way out. She'll be helping herself, saving the kids, and probably will be better off without them, because I'm not with them. I'm even getting worse by the day. And so I think about it, and I remember we are walking towards home and we are discussing this with her, and I say, yeah, I think that's the best way, let's do it. And then deep inside me, I realized, no, this is your marriage, this is your wife, these are your children. What are you doing? What are you thinking? Why are you even going that way? You can't give up. You've just decided that you're going to do this thing. Why don't you fight for your marriage? And so I actually beg her and tell her, look, give me another chance. Whatever it is you want, I will do. I will stop drinking. I will stop, chasing women around. I will stop sleeping around. Whatever it is you want me to do, I will do it. Just give me another chance. And she's adamant, no, she wants out.
And left with the kids, and it is during this period that Michael, while sitting alone in his home, got born again as he watched a televised broadcast of American minister and author Rod Parsley.
The words just came straight to me. God is able to break those addictions. And I was trying to get it into another channel, but it's not even, working. And so I put the remote down and I listened to Rod Parsley. I give him a minute or 2 or 3, and he was like sent to just speak, because what he was doing, he was just speaking directly to my heart. He said, all those addictions, whether it's alcoholism, whether it's drugs, whether it's smoking, whether it's cigarettes, whatever it is, God is able. Just give him a chance. And I said, okay, fine. I had a Bible that I had been given as a present, and he showed us a scripture. And I went and I opened the Bible with him. I'm not stopping I'm still drinking, I'm still smoking, but I get my Bible. I said, let's see this God. Is he for real? Can he stop this? Because now I'm at the end of my road. It's either this or nothing else. And we go and we open Isaiah. We read, I think, Isaiah 53, how Christ came, how he died for me and all those things. Nothing really moving me at that moment. But he says, can you pray this prayer of deliverance? And so we follow the prayer. I prayed the prayer. Don't forget, my cigarettes are still there. I think it was a Kenya Ken bottle was there, 750 ml. And I prayed the prayer. And I say, God, if you're for real, I want you to save me, save my marriage, save my children, and change my life.
Michael committed to a covenant with God on that day, and this would mark the beginning of his transformation.
I could not stay away from cigarettes. I had to smoke at least a pack or 2 every single day. And if I didn't drink, I would shake and I wouldn't even be able to do anything. So I said, if you can remove this, then I will forever be very grateful, but I will never again even touch any one of them. And I had in my heart and in my spirit, it's done. You're free. I wake up in the morning the following day so fresh, so alive. And the first thing I did as I woke up was reach out to my cigarettes, which were just next to me. And I realized something happened yesterday. It was like a dream. I wasn't sure whether it was even real. And then I realized I don't have the urge. I realized I'm not even shaking. Everything has gone completely. And I remember saying, what happened? How did this come to be? And I remembered that I had made a covenant. And I had said, if I never ever feel the desire again to smoke, if I never have the urge again to drink, I will not do it. And that was it. So I did my Bible reading for 2-3 days. Within those 3 days, I think I was the most refreshed person ever. And I could see light, I could feel hope, I could feel joy. There was a different presence in me that was so overwhelming. I knew this is it.
After some time, Michael shared what had happened with his wife, and the period that followed saw them find a church after a long search.
We found an evangelist who was preaching that time, who actually also addressed again and confirmed again the situation that I had just come from. And I realized, surely God is leading us. God is guiding us in this place. And by the time the service is over, my wife, I think at that time, had gone and given her life.
So that day we went to church and I answered the altar call. Maybe my understanding of salvation is not what I know now, but it's for me is to have access to report him to God. And I did that. After I got born again, I told God, this is what he does to me, this is what, and this is what I want him to stop doing and be a better husband and be a better father. Don't believe Michael to me. For him, I'll work in him. But for that kind of husband you desire, he needs a wife to match that.
Through the church, the couple was witnessing a change like never before, and Anne got to a point of forgiving her husband.
We were getting saved, backsliding. I was looking for help, couldn't get help. Now you have help coming to the house. Young men, young women who are going to sit with us and walk with us and hold our hands. And that began the journey of where we are now. The consolidation team got a hold of us and they've been working with us ever since. Then we were joined into the church, we became members, was baptized in the church, Holy Spirit filled, we got married, did our wedding, had our wedding in the church.
I was able to come even to a point of forgiving him for all he had done to me, all the bitterness. Whenever I felt this anger rising in me, the word of God would remind me, he's a new creation. The past has gone, the new is here. And that is the word I used to hold on to. Because I'd look at him and see he's the same man, he's the same person. These are the same hands. How can they now embrace me? And then the Lord would remind me, he's no longer what he used to be. He's a different person. Give him an opportunity. Give him another chance, and you won't regret it. And for sure, I haven't regretted.
They would later find out that the church also has a deaf unit, which meant their son Ian would get help.
In fact, I remember the first Sunday that I'm there, we are seeing them signing for the deaf. And I realized they have a deaf ministry. And I'm looking at the young man who is signing and, just working for, the ministry that they were working in. And I realized, God, how did you connect us to a church that had a deaf ministry? And so we started going to church with our children. So we would take now both of them and go to church. But specifically, Ian grew up now in that church. He came in, he sat down under that, and by the time we knew, we were all now finding a place where we could truly call home.
As Anne shares, the children would later get to a point of healing as well, considering what had happened.
Initially, our eldest, because she saw and had most of it, She's the one who had a hard time. But through talking and seeing that I had forgiven the father, and seeing that I genuinely loved him, and of course the dad apologized and asked for forgiveness. Ian wasn't really bothered because he was always with me. So if I was to leave, I would have left with him. Where I am, that's where he was most comfortable. So if I was going to stay with the dad, as long as he had me, he was okay. But our eldest, one who struggled a bit, but eventually she forgave the dad. And the memories now, she tells me, they are not bitter. Even if she remembers some incidents, she's not bitter about it, because she's at a place now where she has forgiven the father, and of course me, having exposed them to that kind of family lifestyle.
Michael and his wife run a catering business together, which shows just how much God has restored their trust and love.
One thing I've learned to do, I've learned to let my husband take the lead. And this is his passion in catering. He has studied for it. So mostly what I do is give him support. Be with him, have conversations with him, what needs to be done. He assigns me duties. We have separate duties so that they don't overlap. But basically, it has even brought us closer because we are able to speak the same language, spend some hours together, many hours together. But even doing business together as a couple, we need to take time and have our we time, where we don't talk about stuff, we don't talk about purchasing, we don't talk about menus, just me as Anne and him as Mike.
As we leave Buruburu, our hearts are full, and as Michael and Anne share, they believe that truly God restores.
I saw alcoholism, an abusive marriage, addictions that no program. And when I say no program, we tried those things. There was rehabs, there was everything. It can't work, it doesn't work. It might work temporarily for a short period, but it never saves, it never delivers. When the scripture says that him whom the Son sets free is free indeed, that for me is a take home. Only Jesus is able to do that.
I can say God restores. God is faithful. He has not given up on you. So don't give up on him. Don't give up on your marriage. Don't give up on your children. Pray. Prayers do work. There is no prayer which is wasted in God's ears. And wait upon him patiently. It took me more than 15 years. But look what he has done. It is marvelous and wonderful.